Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel for that matter if you're brand new. And also thank you for taking your time out to check out this movie review where I've just gotten back from the cinema to check out the latest video game adaptation, which is Uncharted. So Uncharted is directed by Ruben Fleischer, if I've pronounced that correctly, although that may be wrong, so apologies if I have got the name wrong. But he's mainly known for directing previously in the past Zombieland and also Zombieland Double Tap, and the cast for this movie includes Tom Holland as Nathan Nate Drake, Mark Wahlberg as Victor Sullivan, Antonio Banderas as Mancada, got Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser, and we've got Tati Gabrielle as Braddock. And essentially the plot of Uncharted is focused around Nathan Drake and Victor Sullivan as they embark on a dangerous quest for a never found before treasure, whilst also trying to track clues that may lead to Nate's long lost brother Sam. Just before I tell you my positives, let's just go into a quick bit of backstory. I have played a couple of the Uncharted games previously, but I will admit I've never played every single game. So with that in mind, I went into this movie completely just with kind of no expectations, just taking it for what it was, despite the cast list or this video game adaptation that maybe didn't need to necessarily be done. So with that in mind, let me just dive straight to my positives for the movie. So what I will say out the gate is I actually found myself enjoying this movie. Did I think that it's an Oscar-worthy movie? No. Do I think that it's the best video game adaptation ever made? Not by any stretch of the imagination, but what I will say is the performances overall I think help carry this script, and I love that there is elements of this that is faithfulness to the original Uncharted games for sure, and I really admire and respect that kind of homage to that as well. And there's certainly some cool Easter eggs in here, including a Naughty Dog sticker I did spot as well. So, but what I will say is, as the movie progresses, Mark Wahlberg's character of Victor Sullivan, he does tend to get better as the movie does progress. At first, he's kind of just a typical Mark Wahlberg, and for some of the parts, he is that as well. But I felt as the movie was going on, he was kind of honing in on that role a little bit more. So I will give him props for that. And I think Tom Holland, as a younger version of Nathan Drake, worked pretty well. By all means, they could have maybe casted someone different to play that. But at the end of the day, this isn't exactly like a Nathan Drake exactly like in the video games. Obviously he is a lot of an older version, whereas we've got a younger version in here, and I think Tom Holland in general is a likable guy, at least for myself anyway. So I found his performance to be okay. Again, as the movie progressed, I felt like he was really starting to hone in more on that role, and I really felt that throughout this movie it did kind of sort of at times feel like an Uncharted game. But I will say this is the standout performance for me was Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser, who did join the franchise of Uncharted games from Uncharted 2. I think Sophia Ali, for the screen time that she does get, and I wish that we got more of her, I think she plays the part really well and definitely embodies the Chloe Fraser character, and I wish that we saw more of her as well. But in general, the kind of fantasy world of Uncharted, or the kind of mystique about these hidden treasures that we learn a lot about in the games, I definitely felt like there was parts of this movie that really explored that and did it quite well, to the point of it felt different than say like a Tomb Raider game or Indiana Jones or just other kind of movies similar nature. I definitely felt like it had a little bit of a different identity and brought that to the movie, and for that I really do have to praise the direction and some of the cinematography work that has really gone into this movie, because I can't imagine how easy it was to put this kind of into real life, especially when, as you see in the trailer, a plane or a helicopter is lifting up this ship from inside of a cave, you know? So stuff like that is kind of really got to be admired of how much attention to detail they did try to put into this adaptation. And what I will say for my last positive for this is that there's definitely some elements in here where they had a couple of twists I maybe didn't even expect to see. So I will give it props for kind of leaving me at times being like, oh, okay, are they going to go in a different direction? And I admire that about this movie. What I will say in terms of my negatives for this is Antonio Banderas plays a character called Mancada, and yeah, he tends to play a lot of bad guys in movies as of late, and I really don't buy him in this bad guy role. I know he definitely maybe tries his best for sure, but in this, there was nothing special about him, and I just like, you know, he wasn't really needed in this movie whatsoever. And there was times where there was a lot of product placement in this, especially one scene where they're in a Papa John's pizza. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, you can just clearly tell it was a big plug. Was it really needed? Yeah, not necessarily, but either way, yeah, so I wasn't really a big fan of Antonio Banderas or some of the product placement as well. But what I will also say is, in terms of like a negative, is there's parts where there's some really cool kind of CG work going on, but then the camera kind of switches over to a different angle and the CG looks quite obvious, especially in some of these scenes where in the trailer again, Nathan Drake's hanging off the cargo from the plane. And there's just some other scenes as well, which I'm not going to get into. But there's some angles where it looked really believable. And there's some angles where you could clearly tell they've propped a blue or a green screen behind him. And it kind of sort of took me out of the element just that little bit in those moments, to the point where it wasn't too fully distracting. But there were certainly times where I felt like it maybe could have had a little bit of like a polish over it. Or maybe like changing the colouring a little bit. Or keeping a different angle to show that effect. And it would have really brought more of that kind of believability factor to it. So those are my overall negatives. But in terms of my overall thoughts, just to let everyone know that there is 2 post-credits scenes. There's one directly after the movie, and there's also one kind of like mid-credits as well. So make sure you stick around for those. But what I will say about the post-credit scenes is that it certainly can lead to something maybe interesting going forward. Overall, enjoyable movie. Definitely not the best video game adaptation. And I will say also, if you're a die-hard Uncharted fan, there's elements in here that I think you'll like, but overall, you may not like this movie just simply because of some of the choices that they made. So with all that in mind, my overall score for Uncharted movie is... So, if you've seen the movie yourself, or if you're going to see the movie, leave your comments down below. In the meantime, please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. And until the next time that I see you, I'll be seeing you later.